much. So I literally have to cite a very cliched phrase, right? I'm standing between you and the break. But hold your horses, right? Because this is actually a very, very interesting panel discussion. Something that is not been spoken a lot, right? We talk a lot about technology, but this thing's actually bearing a lot of burden on CISOs, especially those aspiring to become CISOs. So, first things first, I'd just like to congratulate the organizers TradePass to have assembled a really star-studded, top-notch panelist group of people, of CISOs coming from Maybank, PLDT, Aboitiz, and RCBC. And one of the critical things that we want to address here is really, why is this CISO burnout happening? And we're looking at perhaps maybe the whole topic of this is the current and future IT security strategies and whether you're improving the cybersecurity maturity model is going to help out with this. Right, so to put things into context, let me cite a study that was done by actually a publication by Dark Reading back in February 2020, where they actually interviewed 400 CISOs, 400 C-level executives, right? And the results was astonishing. There's 88%, mind you, this was before the pandemic, right? At that point in time, already 88% of the surveyed the participants, right, cited that they were either moderately or tremendously stressed out in their role as a CISO. And half of them actually said that they were mentally distressed, right, and it took a toll on their mental health. And about 31% of it actually said that physically, from a physical health point, they had been really been impacted negatively. So what I would like to do is pose the first question to the panelists. Given that study, and also for the fact that now we've just come off the pandemic, we went through the pandemic, it changed the entire infrastructure and how cybersecurity, because no one had ever faced this situation before. It changed a lot from the way from working, the way we look at IT, and that would certainly put a bigger burden onto the CISOs. So I'd just like to turn over to the panelists and just give a reflection on whether the study, and given your situation today, right, is this something that really needs to be looked at and to be considered? So maybe I turn the tone to Charmaine to start off first.
So yes, thank you very much. I'm Charmaine from Aboitiz. So one of the key things, the question was, how do you manage burnout? Well, I'm going to ask each and every one of you in the room today, right? We all have a balance in life. And being a CISO is not, or information security for that matter, it doesn't have to be a CISO for that matter. It's not necessarily something that you go to work and you're done for the day. Right? It's the dedication, it's a sense of purpose because you are serving the greater everybody else, right? And in that aspect, you in your mind need to find that balance, right? Although it's difficult, we still need to go ahead and try to do our best to do that. One of the key things in the panel here today, we have fellow CISOs here like Angel, who's our chef CISO. And if you follow him, you'll notice that he balances his life, right? And we need to find those outlets. It allows us to take that break, to be able to see things from a different perspective. And so that's my take on that. It doesn't matter what industry you may be. Everybody is stressed. Information security is something that we chose to do. It's not something that I get up and I want to change a different profession. This is something that we want to do because we have a different purpose, and that is to serve those that are around us, right? So that's how I would manage having a stressful lifestyle, and that's basically keeping it well balanced.
Right. It's a good point. So actually, if you think about it, the central theme here is what Charmaine is saying. It's a calling, right? And it's everywhere. It's stressful, right? Given today's climate and all that. But there are a lot of other factors in the CISO world. So I'd like to turn it on over to Carlos to reflect on his situation in handling the CISO burnout and what are the strategies that he uses and how he adapts.
Hi, I'm Carlos. Now, for CISOs, because the main factor that's driving this is actually the changing roles of CISOs. We are now expected to know a lot of things that are far beyond technical, like for example, even reviewing of contracts. So how do you deal with this? You need to work very well with a team. So it's a team. It's a team effort. You need to have a strong bench. You also need to work closely with legal, with compliance, with other groups. For example, even fraud. So everybody has to pitch in. So being a team effort, that would make you, number one, more effective. Also, it would reduce your stress. Okay? So that's actually more of my take. Everybody should work together, tighter integration, to bring a much more secure posture for your organization. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So again, combining what Charmaine and now Carlos is saying, from Charmaine's point of view, it's very much an attitude, right, that you bring to that. And the other thing is what Carlos was saying, right, attitude alone isn't sufficient. It's, you do not take things in silo. Don't try and do in wild ocean all totally by yourself. Teamwork is extremely important. The people skill that you will bring to bear in working with people and so forth, and delegating intelligently and wisely, right, to get the job done, is a way how you will actually manage the CISO burnout, right? So let's have Marlon, right, from Maybank, to give his insights to this.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be one of the panelists for today. Yeah, I think CISO burnout is real. No? It's not a story, it's a fact. And in fact, during the height of pandemic, when companies are busy transforming or digitally transforming the organization, what keeps us awake at night is the call from the president and the CEO. So what have you been doing, guys? We're expanding, we're mobilizing people, work from home scenarios. And sometimes we tend to see, I start to ask myself a question. Is this really the job that I want? But at the end of the day, what's important for me is when I came home to my family, I have something that I can offer to them, bring them a good future. CISO, by the way, is it's a good role, but it's quite challenging because the scope is huge and so many obstacles and challenges you have to face. So from you guys, aspiring CISOs, don't give up. You can still make it, but make sure that this is your devotion, this is your advocacy, and you have to commit by doing this. This is going to be your, I would say, influence your perspective, your culture and beliefs in your life. Well, that's it. That's the reality.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you very much. Again, another piece of insight over there is the same echoed by the rest of the other panelists. Right? It's a calling, right? And in how your perspective in approaching the particular role. But also another key thing is about mobilizing people. So CISO is not just simply a techie. Yes, it is an important part of it, but a multitude and myriad of other skill set that you will bring to bear over here. And a very important point here, actually, if we look a bit, it's about people management, the skills that you bring to interact and work with other people. And that is an important point. So let me turn to Angel from PLDT to give his insights, right?
Good afternoon, everyone. We have a different definition of work-life balance in our team. My work is my life is my work. That's our definition of work-life balance. And we accepted already the fact that we can never disconnect from our work. So we decided to remove the word stress from our vocabulary. Because if you consider stress in your life, then every day you'd be stressed. And only in just a matter of time that your body will give up. Alright? So we forget about the word stress. We don't talk about stress anymore. Because we don't have a choice anyway. We have to do our jobs. And we do our jobs 24/7. Right? There's no time to even consider being stressed. Otherwise, a minute after, you'd be added more stressed in your life. No, as a CISO in the biggest telco in the country, it's a huge responsibility and accountability. Not only making sure that the infrastructure is secure and the service is operational, but it also means protecting and securing the businesses, the children doing online classes, and the parents that are working from home. And that is the satisfaction that is giving us the strength, no, to keep on improving and keep on doing our jobs. The whole team of the Cybersecurity Operations Group of PLDT, those who considered stress in their life, they're already out of the organization. But those who are still with us, these are the hardened people in cybersecurity who is willing to sacrifice holidays, willing to sacrifice weekends, willing to sacrifice everything just so that you who are subscribers of PLDT and Smart can continue to enjoy the services that you are paying for. So, stress, we already broke up with stress. And at least in our organization, the satisfaction is felt every day. Every day when our subscribers are enjoying the services. So, it also played a very important role in my life. Being a vegetarian, whatever challenges, the body is very resilient. No? The mind is very resilient. And including my team, of course, as mentioned, you have to delegate, yes. But this is unpopular decisions that you make, you cannot delegate that. And CISOs make unpopular decisions. You cannot ask your deputy to make that popular decision. So if you allow yourself to be stressed, we have a very different mindset in our group. And stress is already scratched out in our vocabulary. So I cannot make any comment on being stressed, no? But I think that's why we are still surviving, because of the people who, instead of considering stress, would rather make sure that you are able to enjoy the services every day as PLDT and Smart subscribers.
Thank you very much, Angel, for that very interesting, insightful perspective. So what are the two learning takeaways that I can get off from here? Right? Number one, you want to be a good CISO and handle this? Be a workaholic. That is where you're going to do. Number two, switch to a plant-based diet. Right? You'll be able to actually... Okay, let's move on to question number two. Now, given that the IT infrastructure, right, and the applications have been dramatically changing, right, particularly trying to keep pace with what's happening now, the economy, the situation, pandemic just coming out from there, and also thinking through about how the hackers are actually leveraging and exploiting, right, this very fast-moving, changing infrastructure. What do you think the IT security strategies that you're taking right now, are they going to change long way, or do you think that whatever you've been doing here is still very relevant given the current situation? Maybe Charmaine, you want to pick up first?
From a perspective of your strategies, as we start to see organizations continue to digitally transform, everyone is transforming, right? We know that we are facing a lot of technologies ahead, right? The changes, AI, ML, the whole 9 yards, IoTs, and you name it. And as you look through the sea of transformations, the organization will continue to push through and enable, use those as enablers, right? And the idea is to be able to be in step, not behind, but in step. And understanding that you've already learned how to do security from day one. You have a program, but you too as a security professional must transform. Not in the way that your concepts would change, but in the enablement and the tool sets that you're utilizing, right? Earlier we talked about the castle and moat theory, right? The ability to be able to trust and verify. This is the old school way of doing things. However, those things still hold true today. But the difference is now we're making sure that we're going to verify before we trust you at every step of the way. Right? This is a change, a paradigm shift. We've always been used to securing a perimeter. I guard the castle with a high enough fence, and I only allow people I trust to get in. That is the old way of doing things. It has since changed. The pandemic's changed this. And emerging technologies, whatever they may be, and they will come, right, are really meant to make things easier for the user. And if your client needs to get to a specific asset, information, and the like, we need to secure that pathway. And by doing so, we need to look at those same enablers within the security field because they possess those, right? And still keeping the concepts of security, CIA and IAAA and the like, right? But those things that allow us to do things faster, better, and baking in that security no matter what, right? Understanding there's still the, the people, process, and technology piece to everything. Technology doesn't go first, right? The process has to be there before the technology can enable it. And this mindset in keeping in step what we've learned over time, you're just shifting your strategy and taking advantage of the technologies that allow you to do that, but still keeping in step with ensuring that you're baking that security in. And you have to be the person that says no when the business wants to step forward fast. No, because we need to secure your path. We need to make sure that you're secure in the way that you're going. But we need to be as fast as the organization as well. So that's my take in reference to that.
Thank you, Charmaine. So again, if you look at this, it is a CISO's job. It's actually not easy. You have to really, really keep pace with the times. So coming to events like this to hear the latest solutions out there and how we combat, the latest threats that are here, it's an important learning process, right? And one thing I understand, hearing from Charmaine, she's a really, really brave lady. Why? Because she's willing to say no to the business. How many of us are saying, who are actually brave enough to say no to the business? But there is some element of truth there because, end of the day, what she's saying, process is critical first, and then the technology. Technology is never a panacea. You just got to get the process right. And that's why by saying no first, you are essentially protecting the business, right? So thanks, Charmaine, for that. And so, Carlos, anything?
So, well, everything will actually change. Technology will change, the landscape will change. Before, if you think about it, your biggest problem is how many people steals your floppy drives. So now the issue is wholesale data breach. So what you can actually do is, you look at other people, you keep up with the times. What went wrong? Is your organization as vulnerable as what happened to somebody else? It doesn't exist in a vacuum. Somebody who did it it becomes a success formula for them to try it to different organizations, different groups. And they're pretty good at it. They have it down to a science. So when they say it works here, we should try it there. That's why it's very important, even for industry, to actually collaborate. Without that collaboration, threat actors, they're good at collaborating. They said, oh, there's this flaw here, try it. Okay. But us, what's your weakness in your system? It's restricted information. So that's the problem. Industry, cross-industry must work together because who's going to implement this? It's all us. And all the weaknesses and flaws, we should be able to see it. So it is always there's no such thing as a status quo in technology. It keeps on changing. As you can see from the start, we went to the internet. Nobody wanted to buy anything online. And then the first thing you would think about before when you talk about the internet is a computer. But now it's your cell phone. With the bad thing about is the inherent trust you put on your own phone. So, but this is not going to stay forever the same thing. Your clients and people around the world will sooner or later mature also. So it becomes harder and harder. But of course, threat actors being there as they are, we look for new avenues. But just by chance, because we forced everybody to go digital, we didn't prepare them. There was no such thing as before they go digital, here's a manual for you, for our clients, for our partners in business. There's none. So that's the great challenge. Maturity has not yet been reached at this point. So expect to see more.
Right. Good point. So if you really listen to this, right, that things are really changing, particularly if you're looking, all of us are moving towards a digital transformation era, right? There is no precedence, right? There's nothing to look back and to learn from there. So we are continuously learning. And one of the impetus and the acceleration to actually learning it is not to do this completely on your own. The cross-industry collaboration, particularly the efforts of DICT at the government level, where they themselves collaborate at ASEAN level with the other countries on cybersecurity initiatives and intelligence, right? All of these ecosystem actually bears down, fundamentally down to actually what you would do and learn quickly as possible, right, to combat the hackers and the new ways of attacking our organizations, right? So thank you, Carlos. Marlon, any insights?
Yeah, well, my take on that is that every organization has different risk appetite. You have different risk tolerance. And I would say there's no perfect security strategy. But there's always an acceptable level of controls. As Charmaine said earlier, the three pillars are important. You have to balance both those three things, the people, the process, and technology. But somehow, in my experience, internal controls and external assessments as well as another considerations, leadership, transparent governance. But I would say our greatest allies for now is our people. So we continue to educate them, give us the right mindset, instill a culture of security-conscious habits. So this daily life, once integrated into your culture, it becomes a habit. So once it becomes a habit, although they are weakest links, but once they are educated, they have the ability to discern threats, they will be our greatest allies. No? So it's important to have CISO, cyber warrior. No? We call them a cyber warrior. So once we educate them, I don't have only IT security in my team, I don't have only InfoSec, but also have cyber warriors. So those are our employees. So in terms of technology, I think the foundational baseline is always given. I think most of the CISO and IT Sec here are aware, infrastructure, perimeter defense, endpoints. But for me, the most changing aspects in terms of security posture is the ability of your employee to discern threats. So they have this ability to know, oh, before I click, I need to check whether this is legit. Before I do this, I need to check if this is something that could compromise our systems. So in that way, you were able to create multiple defenses in all areas. And people is very important. Culture, security culture, and awareness is very important.
Yes. Thank you, Marlon. So again, if you look at it, right, we all know that it's a resounding perspective, and what they are saying, again, technologies alone is not a panacea. And I think Marlon brought up a different point of view, that people, and we all know the weakest link in a lot of the cybersecurity defenses is actually the human. And there will always be human errors. So, as part of the strategies that you look, automation will be one key defense in trying to limit the human error that is involved. Right? So, these are the kind of strategies that I take from here, right? Using technology to actually automate it, right? Because as we understand, the humans themselves are the weakest link. So let's have the final view from Angel, his perspective on this particular topic.
Well, strategies in cybersecurity is a moving target. No? You will have to adapt to your own environment, and your strategy will depend on how your environment also adapts to new technologies. For a telco like us, where there are a lot of moving areas, no, moving units, deploying assets here and there, your strategy must be adaptive enough to make sure that you are always at par, no, with the highest level of cybersecurity standard. And that is why, in our case, our strategy is anchored in our balanced scorecard. So the Cybersecurity Operations Group, or PLDT, is implemented a balanced scorecard since the last quarter of 2018. And the balanced scorecard is the one dictating us whether it is imperative to improve a strategy, to change a strategy, or to add another strategy. Because there are different perspectives in the balanced scorecard. We have measures and objectives, and every time there's a movement in any of the units, within the PLDT group and SMART, the balanced scorecard also will dictate us whether we need to move strategies or add more strategic initiatives vis-a-vis with budget. Because we cannot go to the board and ask for more money without data, no? Or without a data-driven kind of justification. So strategies, sabi nga ng aking professor sa balance scorecard, no? Nandito siya sa Rizal, si Dilio. Do not fall in love with your strategy, because you need to be able to change your strategy every now and then. Yesterday's strategy might no longer be 100% adapted today, so you need to keep on moving. And as mentioned by Marlon, no, about people, we always say that the users are the weakest link. In PLDT, the users are force multipliers. They are our force multipliers. Every time there is a suspected phishing, they report to us. Every time they do something, cybersecurity is on top of their mind. Every time they don't understand something, they think about cybersecurity. No? So pushing or pursuing a culture of cybersecurity is something that should be a priority. And that starts from the board. The board, the top management, the users. That should be the strategy that underlines all of your strategies.
Thanks, Angel. So I believe that here is another thing that in order to show up your cybersecurity posture and your defenses, it's just not about, again, technology and people. It's actually a culture. Right? You have to build a culture within the organization from the top right down, addressing risks associated to cyber threats, have a framework like what Angel has been using the balance scorecard. Right? These are all tools, right, that will help us, right, in our fight against this new threat from the innovative hackers. We had not much time left, but I just want to have one final question. Right? And it's to do with, we've been talking a lot about zero trust. Right? You notice, right? There's zero trust here, zero trust, zero trust, zero trust. So if you look at it in the US, even they believe the zero trust is a very critical cyber defense security approach. Right? Even President Biden signed off on the executive order. They say that zero trust will be a critical, and even some senior states of ministers in certain countries espouses the use of zero trust as a means and a strategy to combat cyber breaches and so forth. So could I just get a final view from the panel, right? What does zero trust mean to your organization, right? And do you feel it's a game changer? Or it's there, it's always been used, and it's not a game changer, it's just part of what you've been doing, right? What would be your views in it, particularly in terms of addressing the topic today about CISO burnout? If we were to actually implement zero trust, I know it's an approach, but at least, it's a model, right, that we can use, right? Will that actually ameliorate the problem of a CISO burnout, right, in your organization? Perhaps maybe this time I'll do differently. I'll start with Angel first. Right? Give Charmaine a little bit of a break.
Well, in our organization, we don't use the word zero trust. No. That's very stressful. we use the word visibility. It means that our team has the visibility on everything that's going on inside the organization, whether it's a process, whether it's an asset, or a process within an asset. Para kami mga chismoso, no? Yung mga marites. When there is an incident in whichever part of the organization, we consider that a cybersecurity incident, unless proven that it is not. That's visibility, and that's how we operate. No? Every asset that you connect to the network, or every virtual asset that you connect to our environment, we want 100% visibility in that asset. Anything happening in that asset, we will know. Anything you do in that asset, we should know. So, but with that, we're not telling everyone, I don't trust you. No, we're just saying we want visibility. Because zero trust is negative word, and negative word is also stressful. So we just need visibility. And for years now, no, we've been adding the visibility to all assets. No? And so far, it's something that the team required also automation because of the growing data, no, that we ingest. And we cannot have people looking at dashboards 8 hours a day or more than 8 hours a day. Otherwise, their eyes will be impacted also. So visibility is our zero trust version.
Thank you, Angel. Marlon? Yep.
Well, of course, zero trust for me is very much okay, no? As long as it's free, as long as it's easy to implement, as long as it's easy to sustain and manage. But it's hard to defend this to the board, no? Especially, you have so many overlapping of controls, then you try to introduce another key principle, the zero trust, you never trust, you don't trust anyone as long as there's another new validation, authentication method. So I would say that the success factor of zero trust really depends on the risk-based approach, on how you assess your crown jewels protection. Try to start on a risk-based criteria or a risk assessment, no? Assess the in place or the current controls in place, if it's adequate. If not, identify those crown jewels that you need to prioritize, add additional layers of controls, impose proper governance, then go to another stage. If you think this is not the right posture for you, you need additional more security to put in place, then design a roadmap. don't waste your money. Sometimes we just invest too much, but we don't realize the, the results to that, especially to those assets that you need to protect. So it's risk-based criteria is always an item for me.
Thank you, Marlon. Right. Carlos, last words?
Zero trust actually helps. It's part of a strategy. As such, you have to actually review your strategy. How does it fit? But it's not a begin-all and end-all of a solution. Yes, you can control how you get data, how you provide access to data. But for example, in our case, we are a financial institution. You cannot remove maker-checker tests. These controls are important because in the end, it's just technology. There is, for that technology and for that solution, it has no context. Okay, so it treats everything equally. So that's also the same viewpoint we have for AI and ML. They just look at it and they say, this looks like, but there's no context for them. So that's why it is still, it's part of the strategy. It helps, it reduces some of the issues that you can encounter, but it doesn't mean just by having it, yes, we got it, we beat it. What did you beat? So that's the problem. We have to look at it as a holistic strategy for an organization, but it does help, and it's just extending the old adage of trust. Everything must be verified.
Thank you. And lastly, Charmaine.
All right, and you asked about, is this a game changer? Well, you know what? We've been checking IDs and letting people in for centuries. But the idea of changing your mindset as a security professional from guarding gates down to looking at how a user connects to the resource in all of those steps, all the way and back, right? So changing our mindset again was about, oh, I built the strategy of a layered security from all the layers that's required. I have the platforms to support it. You're shifting that focus because your business is moving in a different direction and you need to change that. And when you do change that, you also need to take into consideration your business. What do they want to do? And incorporate that model, right? Of course, there's nothing wrong with it. I wish you could wake up one day and everything's zero trust, right? Oh yes, it's not gonna happen. There's a transition. And there are points in your strategy or your technology, if I were to say, that would still be in that castle and moat. Because they were there for a while and they're doing good in that process. You don't have to rechange that. But you have the other side that's zero trust, right? That model, because these new systems that come into play allow you to be able to capitalize on that. But it's the mindset of looking at things not from the basis of guarding a building and an environment, but really looking at that individual's way of getting to that data and going through each of those processes. Getting to zero trust model and doing all of those can make you crazy if you're looking at it from a technological perspective, right? Because you already have process that you're doing this already. It's just a matter of integrating those things and simplifying. In fact, there's also some ways by saying, you know, we've gone through so many of these steps that it allows an attacker to get in between. And maybe the fix to that or the solution was actually to streamline that connection and limit and secure it from point to point. It could be. But that would differ dependent on the situation of your user or your business or your client. So in essence, it's not the game changer. And I would agree that it's an added feature to your strategy already, right? Whether you're using zero trust processes, zero trust technologies, you need to think about these pieces, that the Lego blocks that you're putting together, you probably already have them in your existing arsenal, but you haven't capitalized on it. Or you definitely need a new Lego block so that you can maximize your strategy or your coverage of that environment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have come to all we have for this session. Please put your hands together to thank Charmaine, Carlos, Marlon, and Angel for providing all of these very, very valuable insights, right? That I deem it as priceless from a CISO's point of view. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting and honest discussion regarding financial burnout, one that I really did enjoy because, it is a reality of things. And so thank you